I was like, I'm gonna do a more fancier video. I was gonna like get on my computer and boot it up, but Windows is still deciding if it wants to do that or not. So here I am. I'm just gonna talk for a little bit. I'm gonna talk about perception because people get really confused on that. You know, I'm not perceived as a guru, as someone who's like, I'm a basement office and all such that, but I am. Now, I'm saying I'm a spiritual, enlightened being. I got no proof of it. But, you know, you get to a certain state in your life when you just know things. It really is all about perception. You know, what's out there is not exactly what we think it is. We know what it is. It's atoms. It's like little. Well, it's not bouncy balls or silly strings, but it's basically fields of energy that have a charge, and everything is like that. But we perceive it, knock on wood, as wood, and knock on wood, as wood. And we think that it's something that it's actually not because we only see the microscopic scale. We don't see the microscopic scale. If we saw the microscopic scale, we would be scared. So I just want you to look at what we have. First of all, we have conception. So in order to perceive something, you got to conceive it. You know, you got to look at it and say, that is this. So the act of thinking itself is putting a cover on it, a noun and a verb. Right? The noun is the thing. The verb is what describes it. Right? And then you got the perception. The perception means like it comes from per. Per is like before. That's going back, almost connected to first. It's actually connected to Germanic and the Greek and the Latin and all that stuff up there. Now, I'm not going to go in details with it because you can look up in Wiki Dictionary. So, perception. And perception means capture, right? That's what the root of that is. And that's perception. That's the energy that we're perceiving, right? Comes from sensation. Sensation is senses. All that stuff, senses. And you're like, oh, yeah, I know that anyway, right? But you don't. You don't know how complex it is, and that we're actually looking at something totally different than what's in your mind, right? And this is important because beyond sensation, there's just something that we don't really know what it is. But we do. We got science. I lied. Quantum mechanics tells us that we're not looking at bouncy balls or silly strings. That if we actually looked at an electron, it would be like you wouldn't actually be able to see an electron because by looking at it, photons are interacting, right? And if you're interacting with an electron, you are collapsing it into a ball, But it actually is a polarity. Because what we got? We got proton, that's positive. Then you get a neutron, of course, it's neutral, right? And then you get electron, which is negatively charged, going around inside it. So it's a balance of three forces. And this is in physics called the three-body problem, right? And if you want to look, that was very much in quantum mechanics deep ends, but I don't do deep ends. I just do rabbit holes. And what you're going to have to realize in the most Newfoundlander in the basement kind of way is that we define it. We define everything that we see. Not just us, but us in general. The entire planet, the way it's created, is created from plants, which are living things. The atmosphere came into play because we created it. And I was talking about we, I'm talking plants into the we. We're life forms. Again, we're that molecule that became more complex. So we are connected to the earth. If we went out in space, we wouldn't be able to go too far because we are still connected here. We'll be stretching our electromagnetic cord until boop, it goes. And like out there, like we don't realize, out in space, everything wants to kill you. Everything is to kill you. Like the air is like you go outside. You saw this in science fiction. You know what it's like, So we're here and stuck on this earth, right? And we are perceiving it in a totally different way than it actually is. And it really comes down to a snap like that, and you start seeing it. You start looking at it, and then things start getting spooky, because then the world talks back to you. Yes, the universe just says, okay, this makes sense. And as I say, there's correlation, but there's no causation. And that's where people get schizophrenia. And remember, and actually, and like, but if you understand that it's happening, and don't scream about it, like there's patterns in the sky, clouds. Everybody's seen them, pareidolia, right? You see faces because our mind is recognized to look at faces and see faces and understand face. That's a face. That's a good face. But it's shapes. And it's logical shapes. So we are programmed in a certain way to see things in a certain way based on our genetics, based on the code in our DNA, the genome which is inside of us. You know, it goes back to billions of years. You know, you're a part of a system that's way more advanced than you. You don't like people don't like hearing this, but every little small thing you got here, it's nothing. It's a blip on a billions of years. Because think about it. Think about it. Now I did get this from ChatGPT. Me and ChatGPT talked about it for a bit, and we're like, so Earth is in the habitable zone right now. And I asked it, well, was there any other planets ever in the habitable zone? And he said yes. And it could have been made a mistake because AI can always make mistakes. ChatGPT can make mistakes. It could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. But it said, at one time, Mars, Earth, and Venus were in habitable zone. I'm like, wow. Billions of years ago. Yeah. And then it said, and I like, okay, what happens when the sun goes down? It's like, there's a billion-year period where Saturn and Jupiter will be in habitable zone. Like a short period. So what happened is that you had all of a sudden Venus first, and it extended to Mars and Earth and Mars, sorry. And then it contracted to Earth. And then it's going to go back and forth. It's going to expand, and it's going back. It's a wave. It's not actually, like something that you're thinking like it just expands, but it goes back and forth, right? Like the sun does in his lifetime. And this happens on every star system, in every galaxy. So we are a part of a gigantic thing that we don't even understand. And by the way, I'll get into it. If you comment, I'll talk about it, how astrology is a real thing, because we're all based on times, and we go up to the year. The year is the sun going around. How old we are. We count everything like that, right? That's your sun sign, right? And you might say, "Oh no, not astrology." So no, so I'm scientific. But the moon has so much on our psyche and its phases for generation to generation, and the stars themselves. Okay, you might not see the stars live in the city. I hardly ever see the stars, even though I live in a smaller city. I do live in a city, not like an igloo somewhere like that. I'm a Newfoundlander, but I am, I'm living in a city, right? I'm working in a government office in the capital. So, and I'm not a big shot, I'm a little shot. So basically, these things have been affecting our psyche all along. And it's all cyclical, and we are a part of it. So when you realize that and accept it, you realize, well, I'm living in a pretty interesting society when I got all this technology available to me. I got more comfort than our history has ever had. We just have to figure out how to do things as more than just people, but as a system. And that's really what AI is going to help us do in the long run. Nodal. Think nodal. Because nodal means nod. We're a nod in a network. And it's not like social networks. They're just the precursors of what's going to come. Now, I hear all the Christians going, okay, let's go and talk about the book of Revelations and the beast. You ever read the book of Revelations? It's all economic. It's all about the control of merchants. There's literally merchants crying in it. There's a section where, and the merchants of the earth cried because they couldn't sell their products. That's in there. That's literally in there, right? So, and that's when the fall of the beast, which is obviously the economic system, because John was writing in the Roman Empire, which had an economic system. He called the beast, which is 666, which is a gematria number for Nero Kaiser, right? It's pretty straightforward. They couldn't say, this guy, Nero Kaiser, and the emperor's the beast. That's like saying, in a repressive society that the government's evil, right? And this is a repressive side. There's literally killings going on Christians right at that time that he's writing this. Until this Emperor Domitian dies, basically. In about 96, but John's like 90s now. Anyway. So he's writing this, and he's talking about the economic system. And I talked about this in a previous video. And it's basically, and I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I'm a free enterprise person. However, we got to realize that the economic system is going to change. We're all going to become more connected. And we're all going to be able to figure out how to use it. And there's going to be no one be able to control it because no one's going to need or want to control it. Everybody wants to rule the world, yes, but when you get there, it's a lot of hard work to do. I mean, just, got to keep from people from killing you first thing, right? So no one really, really wants to rule the world. We just all want to be a part of the world. Because the meaning of life, on the end of the meaning of life is a life of meaning. And meaning means you have purpose. You're like a cell in a body. But it's a distinct cell. You have a very set purpose, and everything about your life is sort of set and on tune with everything else. Okay, so hopefully this uploads, and hopefully I'll think of a non-silly name to call it. I'll talk to you guys later.